Today's video is sponsored by Awesome, a one-stop service for all of your accounting, taxation, and business incorporation needs. This video is for entertainment purposes only and is not financial or legal advice, so please do your own research. So one of the questions I recently got asked was what can be considered as a business expense. So if you're self-employed as a photographer like I am, you'll have various running costs for your business, so from equipment to insurance, and you can write some of those costs off and claim them back against your taxes. So essentially what you do is you deduct your expenses from your profit to work out your taxable profit, and then you are taxed on that taxable profit. So for example, if you turn over £50,000 in a year and you have £10,000 of expenses, then you're only taxed on the £40,000 that is left after you subtract the expenses from your profit. And this is what we're referring to when we're talking about taxable profit. So throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about taxes from the point of view as a sole trader in the UK. So that is what I'm registered as. I'm registered as a sole trader. If you want to know a little bit more about what a sole trader is and the difference between a sole trader and a limited company, then I just put out a video all about that, so I'll link it in the description. But basically what we're talking about is allowable expenses. What is an allowable expense? From the point of view as being a photographer, what kind of things that we do on a day-to-day basis, what kind of costs that we have to run our business can be deducted from our taxable profit. So I think that firstly we should preface this by saying that allowable expenses do not include any money that is taken from your business to pay for private costs. If you're operating as a sole trader, you might have to demonstrate that the costs that you are saying are business expenses are wholly and exclusively for the purposes of your business, just in case you are challenged by HMRC. So for example, a big one on this is clothing, for example. A lot of people think, as a photographer, we don't generally have a uniform. So if you buy clothing, then you can put it through as a business expense because you have to wear clothing to work. So whilst that's kind of true, that's where the wholly and exclusively part comes into things. So clothing, so this, for example, this jumper, I did not purchase this just for the purpose of going to work, because I use it and I wear it in personal situations, and because of that I can't claim it as a business expense. However, if I had t-shirts that said Sophia Carey Photography on them, then there is a good reason for HMRC to believe that that t-shirt would then be wholly and exclusively for the purpose of running my business, and in which case that would be able to be deductible. But in today's video, we're going to talk about a few things like that, a few tricky little patches, things to think of. We're going to be discussing some of the main things that are considered allowable expenses. And we're also going to be running through kind of like some real life scenarios and talking about, on a normal shoot day, what is considered an allowable expense. But when it comes to your taxes, I would recommend doing your own research in depth or hiring a dedicated accountant. Today's sponsor, Awesome, is a great service that combines the option of a dedicated accountant with their online platform, easily integrated with Xero to help you manage your finances and your tax obligations. So for more information, head to the link in the description and use the code SOF100 for £100 off of your first month of Awesome packages, or £50 off of their annual accounting package. The team at Awesome will be able to do a great job at helping you navigate all of this stuff, all of these taxes, all of these allowable expenses, doing your self-assessment and all of that stuff. So definitely head over and check them out. But let's begin with some of the most common types of allowable expenses. So of course, given the business, the nature of the business, your equipment is an allowable expense. So things such as lighting, things such as cameras and lenses can all be claimed as an expense. And you can also claim subscriptions. So for example, if you have the Adobe Creative Suite and all of those kind of editing softwares, Capture One that you use that are instrumental in your business, that can be claimed as an allowable expense. Remember that it's important, as with any expense, to keep hold of your receipts. You can store your receipts in something like a folder, somewhere that you know where it is, or you can use a software such as Awesome, where you can upload all of your receipts and they kind of file them away for you, and it's all safe. This is important because you have to keep your records for at least 5 years after the January 31st tax deadline. And this is just in case HMRC have any questions, any queries, or they want to check that you are paying the right amount of tax. So secondly, another common expense is your business insurance. So business insurance, equipment insurance, public liability insurance, all of that can be claimed as a business expense. You can also claim marketing costs, so your website, paid advertisement like on Google or Facebook. All of that stuff can be also claimed as a business expense. Of course, something like a website is so instrumental to being a photographer, especially in this day and age. So those kind of expenses that occur can be deducted from your taxable profit. Another common one is professional fees. So things such as accounting, whether that's a traditional accountant or software such as Awesome, they can all be claimed as a business expense, so essentially written off against your tax. Generally, the gist is that you can claim the things that contribute to the running of your business. So you can even claim things such as training. So if you want to go to some courses or workshops to increase your skill level as a photographer, then that is a business expense. I'm going to link the full list of allowable expenses in the description. HMRC have a full list as well as some little guidance and calculations to help you out. But in the meantime, let's talk about a real life example. So for example, a recent shoot that I did consisted of a full day on location, so outdoors, and we shot both film and digital. So the first expense relevant to this shoot would be the film costs, so the cost of buying the film for the shoot. You can claim allowable business expenses for reselling goods, and this includes stock, so your goods for resale, raw materials, and direct costs from producing goods. If we fast forward onto the day of the shoot, I need to get to the shoot, so I need to travel there. And travel can also be claimed as a business expense, your travel on the way there. So in this particular shoot, I traveled by Uber, and I can claim that as a business expense. However, if I had traveled by public transport, or if I had traveled in my own car, those can also be claimed as business expenses. If you're using your own car though, it's a little bit of a different process, I guess. So you actually claim your mileage and not your travel. And the calculation is something like 45p for the first 10,000 miles and then 25p thereafter. So I'll link in the description again the link to HMRC so you can get the full calculations, but you can claim mileage on traveling to a shoot. One thing to note when it comes to travel expenses relates back to that wholly and exclusive part of the whole allowable expenses. And so if your travel is partly personal related, so for example, you travel to another region or country for a job, but then you decided to extend your stay and have a little bit of a holiday either side of it, you must apportion the expense. So if you went away for a week and 5 of those days were taken as holiday and only 2 of those days were working, then you can only claim expenses for those 2 days. So back to the shoot. We've done the shoot now, we've shot the film, and of course we've got to get it developed. We've got to develop the film. So sending that film off to the lab, the postage costs, the cost of actually paying for the service, that is also an allowable expense. So if we consider this shoot as a part of the business, you know, the bigger scale of it and things that aren't just completely refined to this specific shoot, you've also got things such as your cameras, your lenses, your film, all of those equipment costs, maybe your film scanner, things like that, alongside your insurance, public liability insurance and all that stuff, your travel, your film development, your subscription to whether that's Adobe Creative Cloud or Negative Lab Pro for the editing process. All of that can be included as allowable business expense. If we take, for example, a different shoot, so say we're not on location, we're in a studio this time. If you are the person that is booking out the studio, not your client, so if I'm booking and paying for the studio, then that rent is an allowable expense. I'm someone who regularly hires studios because I don't have one of my own. But however, if you do have one that you have of your own that you rent for a extended period of time, then you can also claim expenses there. So things such as your rent and any utility bills, that can be claimed as an expense from a commercial property. If you're working from home, or you have, let's say you have a home studio, which is very common, obviously, you can still claim for certain property related expenses and bills, but you have to calculate them differently. HMRC recommends that you can claim a proportion of your costs for things such as heating, electricity, council tax, rent, internet, telephone use, but you have to calculate them differently. So for example, to claim a portion of your electricity bill as a business expense, you're going to need to work out how much of that bill was wholly and exclusively responsible for your business, essentially. So how much electricity did you use whilst you're working? And you'll need to remember to keep records of the original bills as well as all of these calculations in case HMRC want to see them. So HMRC gives an example of if you have 4 rooms in your home and you use one as an office, your electricity bill for the year is £400. Then you divide the £400 by 4 and claim £100 as allowable expenses. They also note that if you only worked 1 day a week from home, you could claim £14.29 as allowable expenses, and that's by dividing the 100 by 7. But I will link the full HMRC guidance in the description of today's video alongside the sponsor, Awesome. But I think that the main takeaways from this video is that if you're claiming a business expense, it should be wholly and exclusively for the purpose of your business, and you've got to keep your receipts. These are great rules to remember so that you avoid, accidentally claiming an expense that isn't allowable, or you get rid of your receipts and then can't claim that as an expense just in case HMRC do want to see it. So I would recommend using something like Awesome to help you store all of your receipts and keep them organized and relating to your bank records, etc., because this, when it comes to your self-assessment, or if HMRC do get in touch, will make the process a lot easier for you. The whole topic of taxes and self-assessment forms and all of that stuff is way too big to put in just one video. So if you do have some specific questions that you want me to go through in future videos, then drop me a comment. But a big thank you for watching, and a big thank you to today's sponsor, Awesome. If you would like to catch up with anything else in the Work Edition series, we have covered things like how to start your photography business, the difference between a sole trader and a limited company, how to register your business. We've covered invoicing. All of that stuff is on the channel, so I'll link that in the description as well. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.